Hi muckers, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all having the best day ever. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is something different than what we normally do, and I appreciate you being here and clicking on this video. And I'm excited for this video because I've waited 1 year to make it, and I can finally make it, and I can finally just sit down and have an honest conversation about it, and I'm very excited for that. Also, we are currently in my bedroom. I never film in my bedroom. I am also, at the end of this week, going to be posting an apartment tour, which is the first time I will ever be showing you my apartment. I have lived here now for a year. As of this week, y'all, I've been living alone for a year in a new country, and I can't believe it has just flown in. But I have not shown you my apartment within that year, ever. I've, shown you rooms. This is kind of the most you're seeing in my bedroom since I moved in. I've shown you the living room and maybe sometimes the kitchen. But there's so much to this apartment that I am finally ready to show you. It's not that it's decorated perfectly or anything like that. It's just I feel like I'm ready to show it. And I'm very excited for that. So just know that that's coming very soon once I can persuade one of my friends to come over and film the video for me. Also, I am blocking Tony the empath. This is my little angel, my little child. And so yeah, this is my bedroom. I really need advice, number one, for how to decorate your bedroom. Because I think I've put so much decorating pressure on every other room in the apartment that whenever it comes to the bedrooms, there's this one in the guest room, I flop. This is so minimal. This is not even how it's supposed to look. This is just, I threw all of my fake flowers over there. Yeah, they're all fake. I have, a couple of real flowers in the living room, but... Okay, so, this video is about living alone, what I've learned, what I would wished I have heard before I moved out, and kind of the journey, what I struggle with, what's great, what I miss, everything. So, what we're gonna start is kind of me just talking, and then I have kind of some topics that people, the muckers, have asked me to touch upon, and I am going to. So first of all, I just want to talk about, before you move out, what I wished I had known. Number one, I wish I had known, this is for living on your own, right? I wish I would have known how lonely it would have been. But I wish I would also know that that is to be expected. Don't put enough pressure on yourself whenever you think that, you're lonely and maybe you're made the wrong decision, or maybe, why should you be feeling lonely, and just all these different feelings, right? That's natural and that will come. Another thing is that you did not learn in school what you're going to need to live alone. Like, they did not teach you really anything about living in an apartment or living in, a place on your own. The amount of stuff that you have to do as an adult, like a self-sufficient adult, is way beyond what you were ever taught in school. Keeping up with bills, understanding bills, water bills, different companies, how to fix maybe broken appliances in your apartment, even just like communicational skills with talking to, professional landlords and, that kind of stuff. You will be shocked at what you don't know about living alone. Also, this is pretty self-explanatory, but no one else is going to clean up. Like, no one else is going to clean up. And whenever you live alone, what I have found from talking to other friends I know who live alone as well, and me living alone, and my friends who live with their friends, you have to push yourself to clean every day because no one else is going to do it. As obvious as that sounds, seriously, you need to clean up as you go because you're just going to continue to overwhelm yourself. And I guess this can be if people are living with other people as well. Like, you really just got to do it. I was always so lucky that, like, I always lived in a clean house. My parents were always, especially my dad, very big into cleaning. So I kind of took it for granted, like, but how much that upkeep is. And, you have your dishes, and you have the cleaning of the floors, the mopping, the brushing, the organizing, just... There's so many things that goes into it, so I wish I would have known that as well. I'm trying to think what else I wished I would have known. How weird it'll feel living surrounded by so many people and you're living alone. What I mean by that is, in my apartment block, it's mostly couples, it's mostly families, so kind of how you will feel if, you know, take into account if you move into a place that has a lot of those kind of dynamics and you're on your own, how you'll feel in that situation. Sometimes I've, you know, kind of longed for living with someone whenever I see other people, you know, coming out with like their partner or their cousin or, you know, just like a family member that they're living with. Sometimes you kind of think like that. Also, I did not ever went into the process of renting before, so I didn't know what the paperwork stage was going to be like. If you are in the process of wanting to move into your own place, you are not going to have a reference on a landlord to landlord, so you're going to be, basically they're putting their trust in you that you will keep the place great by letting you be a tenant. But because you don't have a previous record of a landlord being like, this tenant was great, which means they have confidence in you, property managers are not going to have confidence in you. They didn't with me because I didn't have any previous living. It was with my family, so I wasn't, you know, the renter if we were renting or whatever like that. So you are going to probably spend a lot of money moving out versus someone who has lived in a place before that. You have to pay deposits that were never really there if you don't have a previous reference. If you've never rented somewhere else before, you're probably going to have to pay your rent months in advance. So for me to be able to move into this apartment block in which most people here have lived on their own for a while or lived externally from their family for a while, they put a lot of trust into an 18-year-old that was going to keep a big apartment nice, but what I had to do was pay my deposit, pay the security deposit, pay a deposit because of me living alone, pay an animal deposit, like so many things. Like, you can be like, oh, this apartment costs this amount of money, that's great. No, like, you don't understand like how many added on costs are gonna just like come up out of nowhere. It's crazy, and it's something to note. So I had to pay my rent, and I still do to this day, 6 months up front. And I know a lot of people who've moved out on their own who don't have a previous reference have to do the same thing, so be aware that that will possibly be your situation that you have to do. Not 1 month's rent, 6 months rent up front. And I still have to do that right now because I signed that original contract to get the place. So the only way I would not spend 6 months rent up front anymore would be to move on to another different apartment, but I like my one now, so that's something to know. Also, something to know, there are going to be times where you have to make payments that you're not aware you have to make. Always keep an eye on your mailbox, always keep an eye on maybe bills that you're getting in your email, because there are sometimes bills that you're not aware of exist. For me, that was a thing called council tax in the UK, which basically is something that normally landlords pay if you're renting somewhere. I'm renting. Council tax is, in the UK, what every single household has to pay. I don't understand why. I think it's just about living there or whatever. I did not know you had to pay that because I lived in the north of Ireland with my parents, who, if we were ever in a place that we were renting, or all my friends who were renting with their parents, you know, you had to basically not pay anything because your landlord paid the council tax. So that was always my idea. I never knew it existed. So whenever I moved into my apartment, I lived here for like a good few months, and then I got a letter and it was reminding me about tax. And I was like, okay, I paid my tax under YouTube a couple months ago, I'm fine. Then I get a letter like 6 months later, basically that I'm going to court. I was literally to go to court and plead as to why I hadn't paid my council tax, which was me just not knowing that that was a thing, that I had to Google council tax and put in my information or whatever. So I had this outstanding bill of 1 year because I didn't know it existed. This was maybe like 4 months ago or something like that. So I had to like go to court over it, and then I rang up and it was a full ordeal. And then I had to pay the council tax and then a huge bill on top of that because I didn't pay it in time and I forgot it. So just be aware, before you move out, please ask all your friends, all your family, anything, what bills do they pay per year? Because there are things and bills in living alone that you have to like source out yourself. Like, they don't just remind you. That's another thing. I'm trying to think. Now, whenever you're living alone, one of the main things, I'm going to get to questions actually, but one of the main things I'll say is you will take for granted that you have to feed yourself. And this is if you've lived with people, or with me it was family before. I took for granted that my parents had like a dinner on the table every single day at this specific time, anytime I was living there. Because you have to make that stuff yourself. And I always got lunches and I always had breakfast. When you move out, you're going to be so preoccupied by so many different things that you have to do by living alone that sometimes you will forget to feed yourself. Because especially when you move out, you'll be stressed and stuff like that. It is something that you need to remind yourself. So one thing I will say is, if you're moving out, remind yourself of an eating routine, because you may, in the stress of it, just forget to eat. You may be too busy to, and that's not healthy. And that is exactly what happened whenever I moved in. I was so preoccupied by so many different things that I was forgetting to eat. So please remind yourself to eat. And also, once you move in, one of your first, big buys is going to be furniture and, making sure your clothes are there and your favorite items from home. You will forget that one of the main essential things to do is go grocery shopping whenever you're moving. Make sure that you have staple food items at all times. I'm talking, make sure you have pasta, make sure you have rice, make sure you have snacks, make sure you have like hummus and maybe rice crackers or fruit, vegetable, any of your favorite snack kind of things, or easy dinners. Have them in your apartment or house. Cereals as well, and just have milks. It is so important to just have food in your place, because you'll be surprised if you're grocery shopping for like dinner by dinner, that sometimes you will just be hungry and you don't have anything available. So please just make sure that you are up to date with your groceries. That's another thing that I would say. And also, before I get to questions, keeping a good relationship with your property managers will probably help you in the long run. I have a really good kind of personal, not personal, but like personable relationship with my property managers. I frequently will go into their office and give them updates whenever they ask them for them. I'll always be timely in my responses. I'll always be really polite. I've never caused any issues in the apartment. I don't think I've ever had more than one party here ever, and a party was literally having 6 people over and we just listened to music at a good volume. So that's kind of my main things. Keep a good relationship with, if you're talking to your landlord or your property manager, kind of that. But let's get to questions, okay? Okay, but one thing I do need to say before questions, please make sure whenever you move in that you know and understand how to use household appliances. They are different property by property, so make sure you understand, if you have one, how to work the washing machine, different cooking facilities. Make sure you know how to work them. Make sure you know which switch in your electricity or gas and your household unit of buttons and stuff like that, whatever the fuck that's called, fuse, whatever. Make sure you know which one's for which, how to use it. If a fire alarm goes off and it is a false one, how to turn it off. Or if there is your gas goes out or your electricity goes out, you know how to put it back on. Those are questions to ask before you move in, not whenever they happen in the moment and your apartment's in a blackout and you have no electricity or no heating and all this shit, and you're desperately trying to find your phone in the pitch black so that you can call someone to come help. Unfortunately, that exact story happened 3 times over my stay here, so. But let's get to questions. So, one thing I do want to say is I have a new private Twitter account. I think I'm actually going to, at the start of this video, film a little thing and say, please go follow it or whatever. But it is at Muckers_Adam. So at Muckers_Adam on Twitter. It is a private account. I will accept you on it. And I'm basically just treating it as a big group chat. If you turn on post notifications and follow me on there and just respond, and we can have conversations back and forth, it's a lot more manageable than YouTube comments and stuff, but I do appreciate them too. But on there I said, I'm going to get a video up tonight on 1 year living alone, what I learned, something like that. What topics do you want me to focus on about living alone? So, these are the ones that you guys said. So, Chloe said, having to build your own structure. I don't know if that makes sense. It does, don't worry. But how have you found having no guidance for a routine, especially not having a 9-to-5 job? Was it hard to find motivation to do basic tasks because it was only you? I don't know if this is specific to ADHD. You get it. Yeah. It is so hard whenever you are on your own to have a routine. It is so hard to keep to it because it is so easy to sleep in and, go for a little, whenever no one's there to tell you no, family aren't there, your friends, you don't have, well, for me it was 9-to-5 job, I could sleep the entire day and then you would do that for days on end and it wouldn't be great. It is really hard, and at the end of the day, you will go through phases with it. You will go through phases where you're living from like 2 a.m. to like 2 p.m., like staying up like all night, and then there will be phases where you're waking up at, you know, 8 a.m. and going to bed at 10 p.m. It is going to change all the time, and I think my main advice would be just don't be harsh on yourself, like don't be really strict, because you're adjusting to being on your own for a lot of people for your first time ever. Saoirse said, how the fuck do you go about grocery shopping and general budgeting stuff? Feel like loads of our generation just rely on Uber Eats and delivery. Yes. Well, I did for a long time whenever I moved in. I relied on fast food and stuff like that just because I was so exhausted at the end of the day from like everything that is with upkeeping like your own place that I just would order food in, and it's only been recently. By the way, get an air fryer if you live alone. Get an air fryer. It'll be so easy. It'll save you so much time, so much cleaning, get one. Just get one. And I've been doing my own meals now and I've been loving it. But in terms of budgeting, my main tip for budgeting is it is so easy to like tap on with your card, or if you have a contactless card, you know, basically buying things without needing your debit card or having physical cash or something like that. Like, it is so easy to spend money these days. So my main tip for budgeting, which I started doing pretty early on in living in my apartment, and I'm so glad I did it because I've saved so much money, is I always would use my debit card. So what I do is at the start of the week, I go and take money out of my debit card, and that's the money I can spend per week on grocery shopping, or if I'm going out shopping that I'm not bringing like my debit card in. And it has made me look for deals in the supermarket, and it's actually like a fun mental thing as well, like to under budget yourself what you would normally do, and going through, you know, and finding cheaper alternatives of things. It really is something that's great to do whenever you live alone as well, because it's a really fun activity and it passes lots of time. Someone said, what is the hardest and easiest thing about it? Hardest thing would be lonely nights. Like if you have had a bad night at the club, right, and you come back, you're coming back to an apartment by yourself. So you're just sitting with your thoughts, versus if you lived with someone, you go back and you can talk to them about it. So I think loneliness would be the best thing, and then, or would be the worst thing, and the best thing would be it's liberating. Like sometimes as well, whenever you just don't want to hang out or talk to people, like you're in the best position by like just being on your own. You just feel so, you know what I mean? Like it's a lot, it's very hard to do, but it's so rewarding. And I feel like people who live alone will get that, you know what I mean? Like understand that feeling. So someone said, okay, how do you deal with like mental health struggles when you're by yourself? Again, it is just going day by day, not being strict on routine. I'm different than a lot of people that I don't really, just routines aren't that deep to me. Like it's probably better for me to go day by day, week by week, and that's what I do, which kind of then makes me feel better in terms of mental health, because I'm not forcing myself to do things at a certain time whenever I don't want to, which then makes me feel like more drained. It's just like taking it day by day with yourself. And again, you have no one to tell you otherwise if you're just living alone. Someone said, oh, I love this question, it's from Joe. You should talk about what it's like to suddenly be the sole person that keeps a roof over your head, your home clean, and your stomach full. Like all the responsibilities that come with being alone and independent. Joe, that is literally like the best phrasing of that I've ever heard. To be the person that's the sole like reason that you have a roof over your head in terms of money is scary and gets overwhelming, and I don't think there's any other way I can describe that. And that is something that I'm still dealing with, and I don't think even a year on I can tell you a way to make yourself feel better about like being the sole person that like keeps you alive. And that goes the same for, you know, keeping your stomach full and your home clean. I think it's just, if I think about it too much, even to this day, it's overwhelming. So I don't know if other people are different about that though. Someone said the weird balance, I love this one too, between going out, so like going out to a club and stuff like that, and doing stuff and staying home. My thing on this was, whenever nightclubs and clubs opened again, I just wanted to go out all the time, and I was loving it, and that was even up until recently. And then I started realizing that I was falling behind on my cleaning. You know, the apartment wouldn't look as clean as what it did 2 weeks ago, and then there were just little things where I was like, oh, my dishes are like building up where they never used to. And then I realized that I just needed to, you know, balance life. And so what I do now is I don't go out more than normally, like 2 times a week. That's normally like a weekday and then a weekend. And then the rest of that I have to like work on the apartment, and you'll be surprised, you will find tasks to do in an apartment or in a house by yourself every single day if you think that you've done everything. So I think just the balance is understanding routine without enforcing one, if you understand. So a lot of people are talking about loneliness, and I definitely think that that is something that happens. It's like not something you can avoid, but my biggest tip would be always have like a podcast on. I'm not talking music. Don't always have music on. As much as I love music, always have a podcast on, or always have like the radio on, which is like the best because it's like music and talking. It really fills up the space with other voices, which is so great and kind of so comforting. And one of my new favorite things is literally listening to the radio that I would listen to when I was back in Derry. And it just plays like in the kitchen all day. And then I go to bed, turn it off, and it's great just to be like maybe in here, like filming a video and I can hear it. You know what I mean? It's comforting to hear other voices, because if you're alone and it's silent for a long period of time, you'll probably start to just think about things that you don't want to. But I don't know, I really love distractions, and I think that radio is such a great one, or podcasts. So I think the final one I'm just gonna do is how to just like take care of yourself and take care of animals. Oh, by the way, if you live alone, I would 100%, if you're an animal person or not, get a cat. Obviously, consider it and think about it, and if you want to, get a cat. I'm not talking dog, but I'm talking like a singular cat. I know a lot of people who live alone, they have like one cat, and it's the best thing they've ever done. You cannot be like not a cat person if you're like, they're vicious or whatever. You just probably haven't been great to cats, or the cat that wasn't great to you was probably not being treated great by humans. Cats are loving, cats are great, and they are great. Specifically like one person in an apartment. That'd be my favorite thing. And also just like the responsibility of a pet whenever you're ready for it is great to have in an apartment when you're living alone, because they're like your little roommate. So make sure that you're ready for the responsibility, whether that's getting a fish, a hamster, a guinea pig, a dog, a cat, anything, right? Even like birds and stuff like that. So that's like my main thing, I would say. But I'm trying to think, I just think if it's something that you're considering doing and you don't know, do it. If you can, do it. I think living alone at any age, even for a year, 6 months, is so great, the mental conclusions that you will come to that you wouldn't have whenever you're like living with someone and you know you're always hearing them talk as well, and there's different, whenever it's just you, it's great. And what I would say to anyone who, because I remember watching these videos and I'd be like, oh, but I can't move out, like I could never afford that, or I'm too young, or you know, different things whenever I would watch other people's videos like this. My main thing is, if you're like longing for that like living alone, you know, fantasy of what you will hopefully be doing next year in a couple months or whatever, and you want to, you know, slowly be easing into that, take days where you're just by yourself. Go on like, get on a train and go to like a nearby place and just spend the day there by yourself. Be safe, you know, maybe go to a cafe and then go to a library, or do days just by yourself. And if you build them up over time, you will slowly start to feel like how you feel whenever you're living alone, because you're so self-sufficient, and it's great. So if you're on the about it, do it. And I would love to hear the conversation below about people who maybe lived with people, lived with family, lived by themselves. Like, I would love to hear everyone's stories and like where that has kind of led them to. So I appreciate you watching this video. Thank you so much. This was actually one of my favorite videos to ever film, and I've been waiting a year to do it. So thank you for being here. I love you, and I'll see you in my next one, and bye. Mwah.